So when I first planned to make this video, it was going to be 5 things I hate about the Dodge Durango, and then I drove it. And it turned more from a hate video into, it could do this a little better. Now to preface why I would even start to say I hate the Dodge Durango, my family's owned 3 of them throughout their entire lifetime, and the second 2 that we had, within the first 3,000 miles, the transmission blew up on the first one, which was a limited. And then on the second one we had, which was a Citadel, in 30,000 miles, the transmission blew up. So I had a really good reason for saying that I don't like the Dodge Durango, just because of past experiences with it. And to be honest with you, this car is behind on at least technology and comfort features than its competing SUVs. So instead of making a hate video, it's gonna be, it could be better. So I'm Aiden, and you're watching God Next. So the first thing that I think the Durango could do better, and Dodge overall, is updating their vehicles. Now, it's one thing to throw a couple facelift things on here. The interior has been updated. The exterior has been mildly updated over the last 14 years that this generation has been around. But yes, 14 years. The 3rd generation Durango came out in 2010, and in that same time, there have been 4 generations of the Ford Explorer. One that just came out this year for the 2025 model year. And I think that just goes to say that maybe it's time. Of course, Dodge has done certain things to update the appearance of this car. New front end changes that were done a couple years ago. Rear end changes. It has been a light bar since I think about 2015, but it's been the same light bar for the last 9 years. So yes, Dodge could do a little bit more on the outside and frankly the inside to make this thing stand out. Now, of course, they have added some things, additional engine options. Of course, you have the 6.2 liter Hellcat engine that you can get in one of these, which is extremely awesome that you can get a supercharged V8 in an SUV from an American car manufacturer these days. And even the fact that this one has the 5.7 because it's the RT is really cool and it sounds phenomenal. But Dodge, maybe it's time to come out with a new generation of Durango. You did it for the Grand Cherokee and the Cherokee. Now it's time to do it for the Durango. Now, under the hood, of course, I love the fact that you can still get a V8 in the Dodge Durango. You actually can't get a V8 in any other SUV that a major American manufacturer puts out at all in 2024. But in Dodge's case, you can. But though that's cool, and I actually appreciate that, I'm trying to be objective here. So out of all the engine options that you can get, I mean, you have a 5.7 liter V8, a 6.4 liter V8, and a 6.2 liter supercharged V8. All of those engines are widely spread across the Dodge lineup of vehicles. And then of course you have the Pentastar 3.6 liter V6. Here's the problem with that. Objectively, we've moved on from these large displacement motors that make less power than the smaller displacement forced induction motors that honestly do have better gas mileage and are more economical for people. The problem with this is, even though it sounds amazing, it doesn't make much power. 360 horsepower in an SUV that weighs 5,000 pounds is not really going to do anything for you. This thing is quick, 0 to 60 in 6.2 seconds and everything like that, but then you hop in a Ford Explorer ST for the same price, because this is the RT Premium, which is around $63,000, and it's a faster car that gets better gas mileage, and even though it doesn't sound great, it's just a more economical engine option. So though I love the V8s and the big displacements, this style of motor has gone out in favor of smaller forced induction motors based on fuel economy alone, and people are better suited to spend money on a forced induction engine in a car like an Explorer than they are to come here and get worse gas mileage and have to spend more money on gasoline, especially when you're talking about the SUV segment. Being economical matters more than sounding cool for the majority of people actually buying these cars. So moving on to the interior, I think it's important to preface what I'm about to say is with this interior, it is nice. The seats are comfortable, they're actually really unique, and this interior feels more unique than most of its other competitors, which is cool. But again, for the people buying these SUVs, especially the RTs, we're not talking about the Hellcats here, I'm in an RT, so we're talking about RT, Citadel, SXT, Limiteds, things like that. This interior really isn't up to par with what the Traverse and what the Explorer does anymore. And when it comes to technology and going into 2024, 2025, this offers no self-driving technology at all. With the new Explorer for 2025, you have Blue Cruise, and with the Traverse, you have Super Cruise. And those technologies are becoming more and more available across the entire range of Ford and Chevy, but Dodge has maintained to not include those certain technologies in these cars. And that's not super important, but it's also important to mention that Dodge was one of the last people to do adaptive cruise control in their cars. And now that's a feature that is found as standard on a lot of SUVs from American automakers. I mean, Ford with the new 2025 Explorer, that's a standard feature. Copilot 360 is something that every Explorer will have rolling off the assembly line now. And so you got to think, why is Dodge so behind? On top of that, Chevy and Ford have switched to faster infotainment system. Android Automotive both are now, with the Explorer and the Traverse, are both now on the Android Automotive entertainment system for the 2025 model years. And this is still using Uconnect, and that's fine, but it's not very user-friendly, and it's always been slower and more clunky than its competitors just in general. I mean, again, Dodge was one of the last automakers to make wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto available in their cars. And that just goes to show there's not really a focus on doing the newest stuff and really driving the industry forward. They don't remain competitive with the Explorer or the Traverse and the Durango if you're not willing to push it forward just that little bit more. Other things are, screens are smaller in here, and that may not sound like a big deal for those of you who are performance oriented, but when it comes to families and people who are looking for the technology, they immediately overlook the Durango, because this car honestly is stuck back in 2010 with a little bit of a pretty skin on it. That's all this is. Yeah, the screen's gotten larger, but to be honest with you, the gauge clusters stayed the same, the seats stayed the same. This entire area, other than the fact that it used to have a turn dial back in like 15 and 16, stayed the same. Most of this stuff is the same, and Dodge hasn't done enough to really push itself into being competitive with the Explorer and the Traverse. And honestly, that's for all of its vehicles, to be honest with you, with the Challenger and the Charger. Ford nor Chevy, other than the Mustang and the Camaro, which the Camaro's not around anymore, even make a competitor to half of Dodge's vehicle offerings anymore, because those aren't what people want right now. They want large trucks and SUVs, which Ram kills it in the truck space. Honestly, great trucks. But when it comes to the Dodge lineup, it just is really hard to justify a Durango when the competitive offerings for technology and comfort and just in general don't exist in this car like they do in the Traverse and the Explorer. So honestly, it's like, why buy a Durango at all? Now, stepping outside the vehicle really quickly, I do want to talk about kind of a sore subject when it comes to value propositions, and that's going to be the price of this one specifically right here. This, even though it is an RT Premium, is still not the top range one you can get of that. If you want that, you can go up into the Citadel, where you can also get the 5.7 liter V8, or you can go up into the Hellcat trims of the Durango, which really cool, really fast, really fun cars to drive. But when you come and look at one of these, this is around $60,000 to $63,000 for an RT Premium. And then you look at the very top of the line for something like an Explorer. And for that price, you can get a Ford Explorer ST all-wheel drive. Granted, this is all-wheel drive as well, but the ST makes way more power than this does, is way newer, and has way more technology. Like I said, self-driving technology, better fuel economy, things like that, more comfortable, and generally better for 2024 and 2025 new car buyers. So the value proposition for these cars just isn't there either, especially when you're spending over $60,000 to get this RT Premium. Granted, this one does have the towing package. It tows 7,400 pounds, and it also has its blackout package that you can do, which I believe is around $1,000. But anyways, it brings it to $63,000, and for that, you can get a Ford Explorer ST. So in reality, the value proposition, even if you do want the V8, doesn't really make sense anymore. And to that, I have to say, go buy a Traverse or an Explorer. Don't buy this if you want to save as much money as possible. Now, in the back of the Durango, I'm going to get a little nitpicky here, but I do need to find a reason to finish off this video. In the back of the Durango, it's been the same, again, since 2010, which is a very big trend for this vehicle, is if it's not broken, don't fix it, which is not something that you can always follow in the car industry, especially when technology is constantly improving. And back here is not as nice as something like a Traverse, and it is definitely not as nice as something like an Explorer from 2025. You do have heated seats, you do have 2 USB Type-A ports, and you have a 150-watt wall socket, so that's nice. But the fact of the matter is these technologies, especially USB Type-A, is starting to become outdated to the point where phone manufacturers don't even include chargers that support that format anymore. It's all USB Type-C. So if you even get into a 2020 Ford Explorer, there's a USB Type-C back there. And in this one, you don't even find that. So another thing to think about if you're getting a newer phone or any kind of newer device, other than a laptop, which would benefit from that 150 watt socket, you're not going to want to be using these rear seats, because you won't be able to charge your device unless you took a cord and stretched it all the way to the front, where you have two USB Type-Cs and a wireless charger. But other than that, one other thing I want to nitpick, and something that the team pointed out and that I thought was like, wow, that's not only a problem on the Durango, but a problem across the industry as a whole, is this captain's chair configuration with the cup holders in the center. Now, if you have older children, then this probably won't be a problem, but younger children tend to be hyper-sporadic and crazy. So if you're having two kids right here and another kid in the back, and one comes running up here, your cup holders are sat between the captain's chairs. That kid in the back might not be paying attention to the fact that there's two drinks maybe sitting here from McDonald's, and they're going to kick that McDonald's Sprite all over the floor. And if you don't have all-weather floor liners like this one does, that could definitely pose a problem for cleaning. So it's just another thing to think about. Yes, you have AC climate control back here. Again, this has been basically like slapped onto the ceiling for the last 13, 14 years. So something Dodge really needs to figure out on how to update. But the overarching trend and theme of this video is that maybe 14 years later, it's time to do a full-on new version and generation of your vehicle, not these tiny little refreshes over time. It gets old. It's time to really put the Durango up against its major competitors, which, to be honest with you, the Traverse and the Explorer are winning right now when it comes to how nice of a car that they are. And out of all of them, yeah, the Explorer is winning, and it's for a really good reason. So those are some of the things that I think the Dodge Durango could honestly do better, and I think that Dodge should really tackle when it comes to producing this SUV. It's still very popular, and it has a lot of potential to actually be a genuine competitor for vehicles like the Traverse and the Explorer, which both just got major refreshes. I think it's about time that Dodge brings it into the 4th generation. What do you guys think? If you like the video, make sure to hit that like button down below, and if you want to see more from us, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.